Agriculture remains the backbone of Uganda's economy, employing 72% of the labor force and contributing 21% of the national GDP. Whereas the policy and regulatory frameworks and institutions that support agricultural development have substantially improved, agriculture transformation has been slow. This problem is particularly pronounced in northern Uganda. As a result, together with other factors, undernutrition and poverty remains high and is seen as a major obstacle to sustained economic development for the region. To support the government of Uganda to achieve its development goals set in National Development Plan 2 and Vision 2040, the European Union, in collaboration with the government of Uganda, designed a development initiative for northern Uganda, DINU. DINU has an objective of consolidating stability in northern Uganda, eradicating poverty, undernutrition, and strengthening the foundations for sustainable and inclusive social-economic development. Support to Agricultural Revitalization and Transformation (START) funding facility is designed to support the implementation of DINU food security and nutrition component, which aims at providing seed capital to incubation projects along agricultural value chain. The facility is intended to offer access to affordable medium-term finance for agricultural value-adding projects in northern Uganda through provision of technical services and seed capital in form of loans, grants, and guarantees. The facility is managed by United Nations Capital Development Fund in partnership with the Private Sector Foundation Uganda and Uganda Development Bank Limited, and co-funded by the European Union and UNCDF. START is a unique facility in such a way that it deploys a variety of financial instruments and products, adjusting their types, tenors, return requirements, and other characteristics to specific projects. It has a sharp focus on a particular stage in value addition, handling, storage, and processing to promote local capital investment. It offers a valuable combination of technical assistance and financial support to ensure that promising projects do not remain unfunded because of lack of technical expertise. It covers the so-called missing middle in agriculture investment between microfinance and commercial finance. START offers a role and a space to every stakeholder. If you're an agribusiness SME, START will work with you to make sure that your idea is transformed into a bankable project proposal and receives affordable finance customized to the needs of your business. If you're a government agency, START offers you an opportunity to improve your interaction with the private sector and create a local business-friendly environment. If you are a development partner, START presents a ready-to-go investment vehicle to ensure the maximum value for your investment in terms of the intended socio-economic impacts. If you're a financial institution, START may offer a pipeline of de-risked project proposals properly prepared and developed, third-party project-based guarantees to reduce credit risks, and access to concessionally priced line of credit. We look forward to working with all of you to make this exciting facility a great success for the people of Uganda.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cultivate Africa Dialogue on galvanizing partnership for promoting resilient agriculture and food systems in Africa in the shadow of COVID-19 pandemic. And this is the first dialogue for the Eastern and Southern Africa, which is organized by the African Union Commission and Hallpax. And the United Nations Capital Development Fund is happy to be part of this conference and has organized a session on financing agribusiness SMEs in Uganda during the COVID-19 era and beyond, exploring opportunities and challenges. And I'm happy to mention that we have 4 panelists whom I will introduce to you, who are going to talk to us and discuss the topic. We have Mr. Dimitri Pozhedel, who is the head of the United Nations Capital Development Office in Uganda. We have Mr. Cires Alonso Adolfo, who is the Program Manager, Finance, Agribusiness and Land from the European Union. And we have Mr. Francis Nyeko, who is the Managing Director, Italian company. We have Dr. Gudula Naiga Basaza, who is the Managing Director, Goody Leisure Farm. Now, the expected outcomes of this session that you have joined, three. The first one is to have a common understanding of the situation of the agribusiness SME sector in Uganda and what is required going forward to support agribusiness SMEs while supporting the government of Uganda in implementing the 2030 Agenda and the National Development Plan 3. The second one is to develop consensus on the key financing needs and challenges affecting SMEs in northern Uganda and the most appropriate mechanisms to address them. Then the third one is to identify the opportunities, including possible innovative ways for scaling up financing opportunities for SMEs during and beyond COVID-19 pandemic. On that note, therefore, I would like to invite Dimitri, Dr. Dimitri, the head of UN Capital Development Fund country office in Uganda, to give us brief opening remarks and also to share experiences of UNCDF financing agribusiness SMEs during COVID-19 and beyond.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, and a very good day to all of you. I'm very happy to welcome you to this interesting session on behalf of the United Nations Capital Development Fund, and particularly our office in Uganda. I would also like to recognize the presence of Jennifer and all my fellow panelists, particularly those with whom we are working very closely on implementation of the START facility. You have just seen the short video, so allow me to recognize and thank my colleague Adolfo from the European Union and Dr. Gudula, who is a member of the START Facility Management Board, for their contribution to this facility. I would like to make a short introduction into what UNCDF is doing to support agribusinesses in Uganda, and generally speaking, in other areas as well at this challenging time, but also, of course, looking beyond the COVID-19 situation. COVID will pass, and of course, we all hope that it will happen sooner rather than later. And we need to have in mind the future as we are talking about agricultural finance and agricultural development. UNCDF approaches the issue of agricultural finance from two mutually related perspectives. One is digital economy, and we are building what we call digital rails to create a broad digital ecosystem to enable businesses, including small and medium enterprises engaged in agribusiness, to be able to function more effectively and more efficiently. One thing, of course, and I'm aware that, and I'm sure that you're all aware about it, one thing that COVID-19 has demonstrated is the importance of linkages and smooth operation within value chains. At a time when we've seen both global and even regional chains significantly disrupted, this has gained on added importance. And this is what UNCDF is doing, among other things, looking at how agricultural value chains can be digitized and how we can introduce various digital solutions to ensure the smooth interaction between various actors along agricultural value chains on different stages of value chain implementation. We have several instruments and several solutions that we are applying together with our partners. And if you are interested to know more about that, then please join us for tomorrow's session, which will focus tomorrow's session on the same platform within the Cultivate Africa framework. And that session at the same time at 12 p.m. Would focus on how we support smallholder farmers with our digital solutions. I would also like to use this opportunity to invite you to a very exciting event next week, and this is the Kampala Innovation Week, which will discuss a broad range of issue and financial innovations, including those specifically designed for agriculture and agribusinesses. It will take place on 3 days, from the 26th to 28th of November. So please join us on that platform as well. Now, going into the financial aspects as such, I believe that the START facility is a very good example of what and how UNCDF is doing to support agribusiness SMEs. Because it demonstrates both the variety of instruments that UNCDF is applying, variety of financial instruments ranging from different types of grants to loans and guarantees, as well as the agility of the instrument. It has not been mentioned as yet, but I'm sure that it will be mentioned in the course of our discussion. The START facility has been able to react very promptly to the COVID-19 situation. And in addition to the regular development process and lending to agribusiness projects, it has also started a smaller window that provides liquidity support and working capital to our partner agribusinesses who have found himself in a difficult situation that has been caused by COVID-19. So a combination of different instruments, blended finance approaches, including a very strong technical assistance wing that is part of the START facility, but also is the hallmark of the UNCDF approach in general, is a very indicative of the approaches that UNCDF is using. But what is also very important is that built into the interventions that we are implementing together with our partner countries is the future sustainability of the approaches, vehicles, instruments that we are applying. And the final objective is to, once such instruments, approaches, and vehicles have been piloted, tested, and proven, they can be integrated into the national mechanisms, national institutions, so that they can be scaled up and taken forward in terms of sectors, in terms of application, and in terms of future developments. I hope, therefore, that you will find our discussion very useful. I'm inviting you to ask questions, to contribute to this discussion, and I very much look forward to this engagement. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Dmitry, for that, the remarks that you've given and the points that you have highlighted of what UNCDF is doing to support the SMEs during COVID-19 and beyond. I would like to now invite Mr. Adolfo, who is representing the funders, the European Union, to share the different interventions and opportunities that are available to SMEs facing COVID-19 related challenges. Oh, sorry.
No, thank you, Jennifer, for the introduction, and thank you very much also to UNCDF to invite us for this session. Thank you also for the introduction done by Dimitri already. I think I want to focus on the current situation that we are living in the financial sector. So we knew that was already difficult for SMEs to access capital in the market. I mean, in Uganda, and especially agribusiness companies, because there were a number of problems that the companies are facing to get money from mainly from commercial banks. So the situation of COVID-19, actually, what it has done, it has aggravated the problems, because now companies, SMEs, agribusiness will even have more problems to access that capital. Maybe I would like to share also with the audience the fact that we have done a number of studies of the financial sector, and it's very important to understand the different ways that companies and SMEs can get finances. Finances for agribusiness. So you have different ways. One is, of course, using your family, your friends, your contacts. But then the way the company grows also calls for new kind of finances, like microfinance. Then you move into commercial banks. And then eventually some of the companies are also getting money from what is called private equity or venture capital, that normally provides a kind of longer capital to SMEs, longer capital with special conditions, like maybe grace periods for repayments, and private equity funds, normally they become a kind of a partner in a company. And then we move into what we would say that will be the latest stage for a company to access capital, that is the stock exchange. But as we know, in Uganda, I mean, there are very few companies listed. Some of them are cross-listed. And normally, I mean, we don't have any SME that has been able to list in the stock exchange. So in terms of size, also, we are talking around 350 million euros used for lending to companies from the microfinance sector. And then we have like 3,500 million used by commercial banks for the finance sector and the private sector. Some of them are agribusiness, some of them are SMEs, but that is the biggest chunk of money. Anyhow, that is where companies get normally money, microfinance and commercial banks. But going back to the situation that has happened during COVID-19, of course, I think that we all know that now it's more difficult for companies and SMEs to get finances. So there are many reasons for that. I mean, of course, one of them is the risk. But the Bank of Uganda tried to have a number of actions that they took from the month of April, allowing banks to renegotiate loans with companies from 2 times to 4 times. So that has allowed companies that had already a number of loans to renegotiate again. But banks, given the current risk situation, they are moving even more into buying T-bills for the government, and that is making even more difficult for companies to access capital. Then during this 2020, still we are not seeing an increase in non-performing loans from banks, at least officially. But most of our experts that they work with us and consultants, they are already pointing out that most probably by the middle of next year, there will be an increase of non-performing loan, making even more difficult for commercial banks to lend. So what is the point? Why I'm saying this? I mean, if the situation for SMEs to access money from commercial banks was difficult, it makes it even more difficult now. Meaning that kind of programs like a STAR facility that has been already been introduced by Dimitri make more sense. And then you will say, but why? Why it makes more sense now? It makes more sense because a facility like a STAR facility, mainly it does 2 things. One, it supports companies to be better prepared to access money from banks, meaning that there is a process of capacity building, we can call it, or business development service, by working with companies to improve the way they manage the finances, the way they do accountability, the way they actually operate, allows companies to be better prepared to access money from the banking sector. So from one side, the STAR facility is working with companies to get them prepared for that. And that is what we call improving from the demand side, meaning improving the situation from the side of the companies that they are demanding capital. And yeah, the facility has been doing that for a couple of years now. In addition to that, the staff facility has launched a kind of COVID-19 fund that provides capital to companies at special rates. Special rates because now with this situation, of course, and as we know, there was a lockdown of 4 or 5 months. Companies needed a kind of working capital special conditions. So the Star Facility has a special COVID-19 fund that provide those kind of finances in special conditions to companies. So support to companies on the one side to be better prepared, being able to offer a better kind of product of financial product to companies, and at the same time working with the Uganda Development Bank to de-risk lending, meaning that it's also working from the capital side, from the offer side of banks. So the combination of working with companies, offering better products because of COVID-19, but also working with the Uganda Development Bank to de-risk those kind of lending to the agribusiness sector makes the Start Facility a very reasonable product for companies. The Start Facility is for companies that are based in the 33 districts in the north, but it still is something that is available in the market. We, as a European Union, we have realized the need also to diversify the products. So there are also other products and other partners that we are working with, like for example, ABI Development, ABI Finance. ABI Development provide matching grants to companies. So that is also another solution for SMEs in the agribusiness sector that want to expand or they want to continue operating in this kind of hard situation where commercial banks will have difficulties to lend to the sector, and also exacerbated by the COVID-19. The COVID-19. So with products like ABI Development, you have this kind of matching grants. Still, the company will have to get capital either from contacts, either from microfinance institutions or other financial partners, and match it together with what ABI Development is offering. So that is another option for SMEs in the agribusiness sector to get the needed capital, working capital, and eventually expansion capital as well. Then moving into the private equity space, where there are also a lot of opportunities for SMEs in the agribusiness sector. Moving into that space, the European Union, together with IFAD, also created in 2019 the GIL Uganda Investment Fund that provide capital for companies between 300,000 euros up to 2 million euros for lending or eventually getting equity from the fund. That is also another product that SMEs in the agribusiness can explore. It's again a combination of business development service or capacity building to companies, together with capital in special conditions, especially in the case of a private equity fund, is long-term finances up to 7 to 8 years, something that normally is not there in the commercial banking sector, and that is also another option. So I think that this kind of products, either a Start Facility, ABI Development, or GIL Uganda Fund, they are kind of solutions for the sector that are even more relevant now with COVID-19. And of course, we are always ready to get contacted by companies in solutions that they need, explaining to us the situation, and yeah, we are welcome for those kind of questions and linkages. Thank you very much.
The interventions and the opportunities that are available to the SMEs in Uganda. I would like now to take us to Dr. Budula. Dr. Budula will speak about the experiences of SMEs in Uganda and how they are coping with the impact of COVID-19. It looks like Dr. Gudula is not online, so as we wait for her to be back, let me ask a question to Dimitri. Besides government stimulus package or recovery fund, for example, the one that is with Uganda Development Bank, how else can SMEs be supported to recover post-COVID-19 and ensure business survival? Do you think technical assistance is necessary?
Well, the short answer is yes. Technical assistance, of course, is a very essential part of de-risking projects in agribusiness, particularly at the SME level. One common issue, and I believe that anyone working in agricultural finance that is related to SME finance is well aware about it, is the, let me put it like this, problematic level of preparation of projects that are reaching the financiers. So working with the developers, working with the companies to make sure that the projects are bankable, that they have proper, not only proper financial models and proper business models, but also all other prerequisites for the project to be considered bankable are in place, like, for example, good governance arrangements are there, is also an important task which should be achieved through technical assistance. But talking about other approaches and other potential financing opportunities as such, I would also like to mention another exciting project that we are working, we as UNCDF are working together with Stanbic Bank and with other UN agencies, including the Food and Agriculture Organization and others, which is called the Economic Enterprise Restart Fund. This is projected to be a 50 million USD facility that would also provide affordable finance, I mean, at below the normal commercial rates to enterprises, in particular in agriculture as well, and also to small and medium ones, even to smaller ones through participating financial institutions. So again, the issue of the constrained access and the need for more liquidity and working capital to SMEs in this situation is well realized by many stakeholders. And as you can see, multiple efforts have been undertaken to address this issue.
Thank you, Dimitri. I would like now to invite Mr. Francis Nyeko to speak to us about the challenges that the SMEs are facing. And we would like you to, in your opinion, what you think should be provided as support to the SMEs to overcome the impact of COVID-19.
Thank you, Jennifer. Sorry, I've been having a problem with the network. Actually, I'm up country, I'm in Kitgum. So my apologies for the poor connections. Okay, as an SME, the challenges we've been having with COVID basically has been, first of all, the effect on demand has been affected greatly because most of we process locally sourced raw material that we get from within the country, like maize, sorghum, and all these other things. So the demand has really gone down. So that is one big effect. So we cannot sell, even though when you want to sell within the region, you cannot go to Rwanda, you cannot go to South Sudan, you cannot go to Congo. So greatly it has affected our market. Two, we've been having a problem of movements because of the restrictions. You cannot go to any of these countries because of COVID. So even though you want to visit your customer in Congo, in Goma, you cannot move. So definitely it has a great effect on our sales. Now, the cost of finance has also become a problem because we've been, okay, if you borrowed money, you bought raw material, you've stocked, then you find, of course, without sales, you are accumulating more cost of finance, even when you're not selling anything. So definitely that one also has caused an effect on our operations. Of course, the cost of overheads of staff. We've been having staff that we are keeping during the COVID period in the 7 months. They're not doing much, but of course, definitely, you still have to pay their salaries. So definitely that. But so without sales, it still has a big problem on our operations. Even looking out for external market has become a problem, because if you have to export, for instance, we have a container which is seated in Mombasa since February. It was destined to go to China, but because of the COVID, the customer is saying we are not taking. So all these have definitely affected our operations greatly.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Francis Nyeko, for sharing those experiences. There are some questions that have come from the audience. One of the questions is on the land, and I think this goes to Mr. Adolfo. Will there be funding for land acquisition?
Jennifer, thank you. Well, I believe that it depends on what we're talking about, because land acquisition is a very broad question. It can be a land acquisition to set up a factory. It can be land acquisition to set up a huge farm. I think that eventually support to the agribusiness sector, it will depend on the business plan preparation. I mean, if it makes sense, the business plan, and then we come back again to the point that I was raising in the beginning, where it is not just about getting money. I mean, it's about getting prepared to deal with financial institutions. And that is what the STAR facility, for example, does. It works with a company, it tries to understand better the business, it tries to support the business to prepare a business plan that makes sense. And if the business plans make sense, then eventually, normally getting finances from different institutions is not a problem. I mean, commercial banks maybe are a bit reluctant now to take risks, but we have different ways to de-risk those risks. Like I think Dimitri has mentioned now, the existing Uganda Development Bank finances now for agribusinesses, for example, or as we mentioned before, private equity funds, or there are different options. But it's very important to have a business plan that makes sense. So I would say, yeah, land acquisition, why not, if it makes sense in a business plan that is well prepared,
Okay, perfect. Let's go back to Mr. Francis Nyeko.
Yes.
Yes. Of course, we heard from Mr. Adolfo what is being put in place, but would like to hear from Mr. Francis Nyeko. The financing opportunities are available for the SMEs, like we have heard from Dr. Dimitri and also Mr. Adolfo. But the SMEs are not able to access credit. Where is the challenge? Where do you think the problem is as a practitioner?
It's poor. Hello, Jennifer?
Do you hear
Hello?
me?
Yeah, we're cloud now.
Okay, should I repeat the question?
Yes, please, rephrase the question.
Yes, I'm saying we have heard from the different speakers that financing opportunities are available for the SMEs, but these SMEs are not able to access credit even when the opportunities are available. Where do you think the problem is?
I think happened if you don't have the land title, the amount of money you want to develop with the project, definitely the options you have. So the issue of land, yes, land might be there, but also the way the banks or these other look at that land, they say, okay, land, maybe if it's far away from main town, the value is not as high as land which is within the town areas. So they will give it a lesser value. So which means you cannot access the value of credit that you would have accessed over or from that land. So if the land is for development maybe of the factory, they will also still looking at it from that point of view. So the value they attach on the land might not necessarily be the value that you need to finance your operations.
Okay, thank you. We do have a question from the audience. Let me see. The question is about, let me check up here. I saw a question. Okay, the question is, can foreign nationals invest and how? Among the audience, the panelists, can we ask Mr. Adolfo to respond to this? Can foreign nationals invest and how?
Again, the question is a bit broad, but the way I understand the question is if foreign nationals mean people from outside Uganda can invest in Uganda and eventually get capital for the companies. Well, then the answer I think is yes. I mean, when we look at companies that they are progressing well, we don't only look at the nationality. I mean, and in many cases we have very many examples of partnerships between Ugandan nationals and foreign nationals that work very well. So I don't see a problem there as long as the setup of the company respects the rules of registration. You know, so the companies normally have to be properly registered in Uganda. If they are making business here, they are doing agribusiness business, so they have to be registered here. And as long as that happens, then there is no major issue. In some cases, as I mentioned, the partnership between Ugandans and foreign nationals has set up in very good company.
Okay, thank you. We would like to request the audience to submit questions. If you have any questions to the issues that have been raised or to any of the panelists, please feel free to send your questions to us. Let me ask this question to Mr. Dimitri, Dr. Dimitri. It's been over 9 months since COVID-19 pandemic was declared. And we've been talking about how the SMEs have been coping with the situation. Do you think the worst has been avoided or it's yet to come?
Well, that's a very important and relevant question. There is probably no certain answer to it, because obviously we are not out of the woods yet. The situation persists. We know that in other parts of the world and Uganda to some extent, the situation has become more serious. We have more cases. Fortunately, of course, in Uganda, it has not resulted in any major disruptions. And after the lockdown was lifted a few months ago, the life is mostly back to normal, although the global and regional value chains have not restored to the pre-COVID-19 levels. But we have seen, generally speaking, some positive trends in the economy, including, for example, an increase in exports of coffee and some other commodities for which Uganda, agricultural commodities, for which Uganda is famous. This said, of course, SMEs continue experiencing difficulties in operating their businesses, particularly those that are somewhat leveraged and they have a debt to service. there has been that restructuring, or there was that restructuring in the beginning of the pandemic. But the assumption back then was that this is, a short-term event, and then probably 3 months after or 4 months later, we are back to normal. We are to a kind of normal, but not entirely the pre-COVID-19 normal. So again, the issue of leverage and the issue of servicing the existing debt finance is an issue for SMEs. And this is one of the reasons the demand for working capital and liquidity has increased in this situation. So the answer is probably mixed. In some respects, some difficulties have been overcome. In some other respects, they continue, but I do hope that we have left the worst behind us.
Thank you very much, Dimitri. Maybe let me ask Adolfo the next question. What interventions do you think are required from the government and the development partners to support recovery of SMEs post-COVID-19? How can the financing institutions support this?
Okay, thank you very much, Jennifer, for the question. Let me first maybe focus on what the government has been doing. And I think I mentioned it in my opening remarks that Bank of Uganda, looking at what was going on in March, April, they had to take a number of decisions. And one of them was to reduce the central bank rates, then allowing banks to renegotiate loans. That I think that many companies have made use of that, because eventually the regulations say that loans can be renegotiated a couple of times, but now it can be 4 times. So that was some of the decisions done taken by the Bank of Uganda, allowing also financial institutions to have more liquidity, etc. So I think they did quickly. They took a number of decisions quickly that allowed the financial sector to adapt to the lockdown, etc. Additionally, and concrete, regarding COVID-19, Ministry of Finance made X number of millions. I don't want to talk about the millions because it's something that is not what I'm supposed to do, but the X number of millions provided to the Uganda Development Bank that led to September the launch of a particular product for agribusiness and manufacturing that is in the market since September. So they have X number of millions to allocate to companies, some of them, of course, being SMEs. So I think that there have been some measures taken by the government. When it comes to development partners and development finance institutions, yeah, we had a number of meetings in the last months, and we have been trying to adapt as much as possible. In the particular case of the START facility that the UNCDF is implementing in partnership with the Uganda Development Bank, through the board agreement, there was an agreement to have amount of money available for the START facility companies for lending in a special situation. That means 0% interest. And that was something that was agreed and implemented and is being now disbursed to companies. In the case of other development partners, there have been other number of initiatives and projects. There are several COVID-19 related interventions or grants or access to finance for SMEs. Like I can recall now off my head the number of interventions planned by MasterCard Foundation, for example. Maybe not focus only on agribusiness, but focus on COVID-19 recovery. And then, in the case, for example, of Yield Uganda Investment Fund, that is also in partnership with IFAD, we also try to adapt to COVID-19 situation by decreasing the number of funds required for business development service from companies, because the business development service provided to companies under Uganda fund is not 100% subsidized. It used to be 50% subsidized by the fund and 50% provided by the company. But then because of COVID-19, we increased the percentage from 50% to 85% funded by the fund. So that means that the company only has to provide 15% because we understand that there were a number of cash constraints. So I think that in summary, I mean, the government has done a number of actions, especially Bank of Uganda, in terms of the financial services or the financial sector. The Uganda Development Bank product is still there. It's a substantial package from the government, so companies could still apply. And then, different development partners have different way of adapting to COVID-19, but I think with the STAR facility, we try our best. That money is available for companies. With Uganda as well, we tried. ABI development, I think they're also trying to adapt. And there are many other development partners that have COVID-19 recovery funds. So I think it's a question for companies also to try to be alert and understand what is going on out there in the market.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Adolfo. I think we lost Francis. We also lost Gundula, I think because of the poor network. So I would like to ask Dr. Dimitri for any closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, and thank you, Adolfo. Thank you, of course, to the participants. I hope you've enjoyed this discussion, and it has provided some insights into the situation of agribusiness SMEs in Uganda, what is being done by the development community, including the UN system, but also the government to address their situation, their current situation, and also to ensure that there is more reliable, there are more reliable arrangements for financing agribusiness SMEs in the future. I think one important issue that we need to have in mind is that whereas a lot of effort is now invested in development of various financial products and also non-financial products to address the challenge of SMEs, we need to draw a distinction between liquidity and solvency. It's not always or not only the issue of liquidity that some SMEs are experiencing. Some of them would need to really reconsider their business model and whether it is resilient enough in principle, not only in the current conditions of COVID-19, which are, of course, to an extent quite exceptional, but also in view of other possible economic shocks that may be caused by various global events. So working on the resilience of businesses, on resilience of agriculture is a very important challenge. And this is something that should be addressed in the long term. Again, both the government and the development partners are taking measures in this respect, trying to identify the models, the products, the opportunities from which SMEs and agribusiness can benefit profitably. In sum, this should create a foundation, a reliable foundation for further development of agribusiness in Uganda to fully realize the immense potential of agriculture in this country. Uganda is the breadbasket of not only East Africa, but also Africa generally speaking. And it still employs up to 75% of the population, producing about a quarter of GDP. So realizing this potential is very important, and I hope that this will be achieved through the joint effort of all participants, of all stakeholders, and I hope that today's session was a small contribution towards this ambitious objective. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I muted myself. I'm asking Mr. Adolfo for any final remarks on the topic.
Jennifer, thank you so much. Maybe my final remarks will be to try to give a positive note, even if the situation is a bit complicated in terms of access to finance. There are a number of existing facilities and projects that are there to support the SME finances in agribusiness. And actually, they are now more relevant than before, because the combination of capacity building of companies, I mean, that means business development service, get those companies prepared to get access to capital, either from the microfinance sector or eventually from commercial banks or from Uganda Development Bank or private equity and venture capital funds. They are there. The facilities and the projects are there. And development partners like us that design these kind of interventions, that we are looking forward to have more and more companies linking up with us to benefit from these facilities. So please contact us. Be aware that that is outside in the market, that you are not alone, that we want to support the sector, and we want to support access to finance for SMEs, because we believe that in these difficult times are very important, not only for economic development, but also for job creation. And that is what we want to support. So please get in touch with us. Try to get more information on how this facility works. Different facilities are also for different kind of sizes of companies, meaning some of them support different ticket sizes, smaller ones, middle ones, bigger ones. And we are ready. We are ready to provide that information. So you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Adolfo, for those closing remarks. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all our panelists for the good presentations that they have made, explaining issues, and they've helped us to understand the situation of the SMEs in Uganda and the challenges that they are facing during this COVID-19 and also beyond. I would like to also thank the audience for tuning in and the questions that you asked. We have come to the end of our session, and we are going to rescreen the video. So thank you for attending and participating.
Agriculture remains the backbone of Uganda's economy, employing 72% of the labor force and contributing 21% of the national GDP. Whereas the policy and regulatory frameworks and institutions that support agricultural development have substantially improved, agriculture transformation has been slow. This problem is particularly pronounced in northern Uganda. As a result, together with other factors, undernutrition and poverty remains high and is seen as a major obstacle to sustained economic development for the region. To support the government of Uganda to achieve its development goals set in National Development Plan 2 and Vision 2040, the European Union, in collaboration with the government of Uganda, designed a development initiative for northern Uganda, DINU. DINU has an objective of consolidating stability in northern Uganda, eradicating poverty, undernutrition, and strengthening the foundations for sustainable and inclusive social-economic development. Support to agricultural revitalization and transformation, START, funding facility is designed to support the implementation of DINU food security and nutrition component, which aims at providing seed capital to incubation projects along agricultural value chain. The facility is intended to offer access to affordable medium-term finance for agricultural value-adding projects in northern Uganda through provision of technical services and seed capital in form of loans, grants and guarantees. The facility is managed by United Nations Capital Development Fund in partnership with the Private Sector Foundation Uganda and Uganda Development Bank Limited, and co-funded by the European Union and UNCDF. START is a unique facility in such a way that it deploys a variety of financial instruments and products, adjusting their types, tenors, return requirements, and other characteristics to specific projects. It has a sharp focus on a particular stage in value addition, handling, storage, and processing to promote local capital investments. It offers a valuable combination of technical assistance and financial support to ensure that promising projects do not remain unfunded because of lack of technical expertise. It covers the so-called missing middle in agriculture investment between microfinance and commercial finance. START offers a role and a space to every stakeholder. If you're an agribusiness SME, START will work with you to make sure that your idea is transformed into a bankable project proposal and receives affordable finance customized to the needs of your business. If you're a government agency, START offers you an opportunity to improve your interaction with the private sector and create a local business-friendly environment. If you are a development partner, START presents a ready-to-go investment vehicle to ensure the maximum value for your investment in terms of the intended socio-economic impacts. If you're a financial institution, START may offer a pipeline of de-risked project proposals properly prepared and developed, third-party project-based guarantees to reduce credit risks, and access to concessionally priced line of credit. We look forward to working with all of you to make this exciting facility a great success for the people of Uganda.